Hey, She Slayers, and welcome to another episode of She Slays the Day podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauryn Brunslick, and today it's you and me, baby. That's right. It's time for a solo. These don't pop up that often anymore, but when they do, they tend to be real good. And I know I just jinxed the episode because like I have an outline, but like who knows what all the fun things we're going to cover in these. I do know that my goals with solos are to try and like shit and get off the pot, like really just get in, give you information and get out. So I'm going to try to avoid a million different squirrel moments here. So I don't know what my editor is going to name this episode, but my idea is my biggest problem or beef with goal setting, why I don't like it, but why I'm forced to do it as a high achiever anyways. We are going to be talking about goal setting in 2025. And I think that there's a lot of really, really good information out there. I mean, hell, you could just go to ChatGPT and ask, like, can you run me through a goal setting exercise? So I wanted to take a special little like Lauren ADHD cynical twist on it and kind of speak to the people who maybe goal setting has never really been their thing. Maybe you do it in January and then you don't really follow through with it. But here's why this is an important topic. One, as a leader, having anytime that you have people that are following you, and this can honestly be if you are like not just in your clinic, but this can be if you have kids, a spouse, if you're like the breadwinner of the family that makes a lot of the decisions about not how you're going to spend your money because Kirby like makes the decisions of how we're saving and investing our money and I'm like we're going to Japan, we're buying this. So it's a very interesting relationship. But these are really good times. Like there's some episodes in the past. If a good host would have looked it up ahead of time to let you know, but my editor will hopefully put it in the show notes. Kirby and I have done a like annual meeting episode. So we do a couple things towards the end of the year. So don't worry, we're gonna pray, but like we're just getting warmed up here. So at the end of every year, we do two main meetings and they're a little exhausting because they require a lot of preparation and they really require showing up as our best self. So the one is with our team. Now, your team is going to differ as you continue to create more businesses. So, one of the things, Kirby and I have three VAs, virtual assistants, one for Blue Hills Cairo and two for the podcast and courses and all that. And now this year, we probably should have done it last year, but like really, we're getting our shit together. Like, in addition to our chiropractic clinic having a big annual meeting about reflecting on 2024 and looking at 2025 and where we're going, we're also going to be doing that with our VAs. It's going to be very, very important anytime that you're a leader that you really let the people who are following you know what your focus is in the upcoming time period. That is helpful because then that gives them just kind of that clear path of the why you're asking certain things. And also, depending on how long someone has been with you or how well you have them trained in. One of my favorite things is to always train an employee to like fact check me and be like, okay, yes, we can absolutely get a petting zoo on Fridays in the month of June. Just want to be sure that when we've set our budget for the year, when we've set our goals for the year, that this like falls within meeting some kind of criteria, right? Like, could you imagine if you had someone in your life that maybe you're this person in the life? This is great. So anyway, so goal setting is really important. And then the other one, besides our business annual meeting that we do, is Kirby and I do an annual meeting. And this is really important, even if you don't own six businesses together like Kirby and I do. So in this annual meeting, and there's a longer episode where Kirby and I talk about what we really discuss in detail in it. But, we're looking at the core values of our family. How are we living that out? What do we each individually want to accomplish? What do we want to accomplish as spouses, as parents, as career focused individuals? And then how does that all work under the umbrella of our core values that we've set? Do our core values as a married couple need to change? So, that's the 2 meetings that happen. So, I thought this time, "Oh, I'm gonna fix my little hair." I didn't even notice because I had my notes up, and if you were watching on YouTube, I looked like a cuckoo. No, a cockatoo? That's what it is. A cuckoo cockatoo. Alright, good. I'm pretty now. Sometimes I forget that these are visually being able to be seen over on YouTube. Okay, so we're gonna pray. Dear God, as we look to the future, please remind us that so much of our anxiety actually comes from just that of living in the future, in the what ifs, and trying to prepare for every outcome. And Lord, we don't know. And so much life is being wasted by thinking about the future and not just living in this moment. So, God, as we are in this time period of reflecting and goal setting, help us really understand the importance of being in the now, um, and just the wisdom that comes from looking back. Some people are just naturally good at looking to the past and learning mistakes and making pivots. And some I feel are just doomed to continue making the same mistakes on repeat. So, God, I just ask that we have this beautiful balance of reflecting on the past without beating ourselves up, without living in the past and wishing we could change things, but really just taking what the past can give us, which is that wisdom to change and be more empowered going forward. And then also to sit in the present, but also not be so focused on solving our day to day issues that we can't create a strategy for a bigger, better version of ourselves in our life, because often you can be stuck in the present, putting out fires day to day. So you just aren't able to even think and plan about what beauty and abundance could come in. And then that third beautiful ratio of forward looking and dreaming and thinking about preparing our hearts for what you have planned, giving us a dream or vision that helps get our ass motivated on a day to day basis to be bold, to be courageous, to send that email, to stop scrolling and go make shit happen. In your name we pray. Amen. Okay. So we are going to, let's see, how many problems do I have? I have one, two, three, four, 5, 6 problems that I have with people who goal set or just the general concept of setting goals, but how we're going to reframe and like think better. Okay. Oh, and then at the end, just so you know, stick around to the end. I'm going to give you 5 questions that you can write down and prepare. Get yourself in a good mind state to sit down and actually get some goals done. All right. So, my problem number 1 with goals are numbers based, but we are not a number. Now, this is a big one for me, and I think that a lot of you, if it's not a problem with you, you're either a magical unicorn who doesn't take anything personal, or the alternate is you're a human and this is a problem for you. So, when we're goal setting, okay, so if you had a little conversation with someone walking you through setting your goals, what's the number one thing that they tell you a goal should be? Oh, you're not answering. That's right. That's right. This is a podcast. I'll answer for you. It is that it should be measurable. Now, things that are measurable are often a number. That's like, I'm sure there's other things that are measurable, but and then what are the numbers that come to mind? So, like a lot of us, when we're goal setting, it tends to be around growth in a few areas: our bank account, our physical health and our business. Okay. So when it comes to our bank account, make something measurable. Well, that's kind of easy. I made $100,000 this year. Next year, I want to make 150,000. Okay, cool. That is measurable. Absolutely measurable. Health. Now, when it comes to our health, a lot of us overlook the options to like self rate, and we just look at kind of like the some of the actual numbers that the world gives us. Okay. And so this is where kind of getting into that mindset shift of like creating our own measure, but like stepping on the scale, how fast we're running a half marathon or a 5K, how much we're lifting. These these can be helpful. None of these things are bad, but in an echo chamber of using numbers to give us validation as to whether we are good or bad is where it becomes an issue. So when we're looking at numbers, I'm not saying don't use them, but one, I would say really do the work to understand that if you're going to set a number, like a financial number, do some of that mindset work of like, why'd you pick that number? Like, why'd you pick lose 10 pounds? Why? Why did you pick make an extra $50,000? It's not bad. It's that we don't do the extra work of figuring out how we picked that number. So there's a difference between we'll stick with finances. Let's say that you reflect back on you're doing getting really good about your profitability margins and you're understanding your clinic numbers and your profitability margins from last year were at 10%. And you are going to make a plan of cutting expenses and raising OVA a little bit. If I'm talking gibberish, I'm sorry. Then you should consider joining the Multi Passionate Chiropreneur. Little plug there. And you think you have a plan, you've looked and you have a plan that you're going to be able to increase profitability to 20% next year without growing at all. And just that should bring in an extra $67,000 or whatever. Okay. So that's different because then what happens is when you've set a goal that has data behind it and like it wasn't a goal that you came up with because it felt like that's what your goal number should be, whether it's monetary, weight, or whatever. When you set it based on what the data said and you realistically looked at, like, okay, if I change X, Y, or Z, this is a very realistic thing. If you are not hitting that goal, then it's not a reflection of whether you are good or bad. You can look at the systems. See, the systems of getting you to that goal may be being followed or not, but they're not good or bad. If you've set out a plan and you're not hitting the goal, you can look back and going like, okay, well, we thought we were going to approach that by cutting expenses. Did we cut expenses? Oh, no, we didn't. Let's okay, we didn't cut expenses as much as we thought. Let's do that. But then do you see how different that is than like, I'm a failure. I said I was going to start having $50,000 months and we're nowhere near that. We're only at 40,000. I did it again. Like I'm a loser. And you may not physically be saying that, but like your brain, I need you to understand that your brain is telling you that. Like if you are not aware of the negative ass shit that our brains like says to us. It may not say you're a piece of shit because like a lot of times our brain doesn't swear. Um but there's this feeling and you're just walking around all day feeling a feeling of like less than. If you were to like do the work and go like, well, why do I feel less than? Why go 5 levels deeper? It's because of that, because that's the story that your subconscious is telling you. So I do think that numbers are really, really helpful. But if it's going to be a number that is external, like you're not deciding it. So stepping on a scale, your bank account, lifting weights, the amount of debt you've paid off, whatever it is. You can't be like, I know it says I'm lifting 150 pounds, but in my heart, I'm lifting 170. Like, no, you can't do that. Although I wish for the bank account sometimes we could. It felt like that was $100,000 month. So then you can add an additional like scale that is within your control of like, so if you're going to say, we'll do weight. I'm going to lose 10 pounds. Now, one, I'd go, where'd you pull that from? Where the hell did you pull that from and why? Like, what is it? Is it from a health perspective? Is it based on a goal of like getting your insulin levels at a better place? Like, because I'm not saying that we couldn't, like, like, for sure, we're not going to be so pro, uh, what is it? Like, not fat shaming. It's the opposite of that. We kind of got away from fat shaming. Anyways, you know what I'm saying? Like, yes, losing weight, losing fat on your body can be helpful. So it's not that that's bad, but like, why did you decide that? Where did it come from? I would love for you to also put another goal there as far as like whether it's you're rating your effort or whatever it is that you can go like on the day and like to set this on a day where you step on that scale or you go to the gym or you open your bank account and it doesn't reflect what you want, then, you know, work on a monetary or like not a monetary, a numerical goal that in that moment you can say like, okay, do I feel like I have been putting in the effort? Scale is 0 to 5 on this. Maybe really write down like what does putting in the effort mean? It means I am, making new patient care plans. I am training with the doctors. I'm doing this, and then if you have this plan, it kind of comes back to that first thing, that systems and procedures. If when that number doesn't reflect, then you can sit and go like, okay, am I doing X, Y, or Z? And if you are, and you can feel good about it, then it's just like, okay, I just need to, in this moment, let time do its thing. Okay, problem number two is I don't know what doors are going to open. So setting goals feels self limiting. This one you may not relate to as much as me. You might be like, Lauren, are you a little crazy? I am a little crazy. I am a little ADHD. And what happens, like this happens with Kirby and I when we are talking about our couples meeting for the year. Kirby really likes to financially plan all of our trips, but I have a problem with it because I'm like, but what if my friend says, hey, do you want to go to this conference with me in Scottsdale in a month? And I didn't have that on there. And Kirby's like, oh, that's okay. But in my head, it just feels so like I'm just feeling all like this compressed of like, I need to like come up with every possible idea that's going to happen. Otherwise, it's going to seem scatterbrained if it comes. So, what we want to do is some people are meant to have specific goals. And we're going to kind of reference human design here. Okay. So, if you are a manifesting generator, and I don't talk about human design very often, so you might be like, what the hell are you talking about? You don't need to know. You just need to know that some people do really, really well with very, very specific goals, and others don't. What a concept that different people think about things differently. So I learned this when I was starting to learn about human design. I'm a manifesting generator, and manifesting generators are not supposed to have specific, concrete goals. It's supposed to be more of a vague, like it can be concrete, but a lot of times that like if you need like they'll be like, all right, you are going to picture that house that you're going to live in, and you need to have the city, and you need to know where in that city that house is going to be and what color it's going to be. And some people, that is what their brain needs to like manifest that in. Some of us freak the fuck out and we're like, oh my God, but what if I change my mind? What if I said Seaside, Florida, but then all of a sudden it's Cabo? What if all of a sudden, Puerto Rico is on the bench, or like something happens with crypto and we want dual citizenship somewhere? Like, And we just that will suffocate us and feel or suppress our ability to vision and dream. So if you feel more like that second part, like if you want to do concrete, if being vague doesn't like if that freaks you out, then you keep doing you. Like this episode is supposed to be the anti the anti goal setting advice that you would normally hear. So yeah, some of us it's okay to be vague. So when we're looking at our goals, really accepting that they can be static and adaptable. So for instance, I may not say that I am going to speak on 4 stages this year. That is a measurable goal. And at the end, I will have either met it or not. But what if stages isn't exact? And instead, something happens come June where I start being asked to be on a lot of podcasts. And the stage actually ends up being a platform, a more virtual platform. Or I don't even realize it, but I'm going to a conference where there's a whole workshop on becoming a better speaker. Well, that definitely, so maybe I didn't get on 4 stages, but when I reflect back on the year, I did a lot of work on becoming a better stage presence, and that needed to happen beforehand. And so setting some of these goals of going like, for us vague people that do better with this, going like, I want an emphasis on becoming a better presence, having a conversational impact, whether that is through learning or showing up, being asked to speak, being paid to speak, coming up on podcasts. It can kind of be like this umbrella with like multiple different options, literally just having a goal, a more vague goal with like 5 or 6 different ways you are open to that showing up in life, releases some of that suffocation that you may think with like, well, I said I'm going to speak on 4 stages, so I'm either hitting that or not. Like that's okay. Like you by writing down like different ways that that can show up, that just releases some of that like I am very fixed in this. Okay. Problem 3 is kind of similar to problem 2, but a little different. So I am passionate. Some might say multi passionate. And so, what can seem really important at the start of the year may not feel as important in June. So, this is kind of, like I said, this is similar to problem 2, where it's like, we are embracing the goal here is to embrace more seasonal goals, break up those big goals into smaller timeframes to give yourself the permission to shift your focus without losing sight of any like overarching vision. So instead of locking into a specific goal, breaking it down into quarterly or monthly focuses. Okay. So maybe for the year, again, you are going to be focused on doing more external talks in your community. And that seemed like in December, like, yes, I am going to do this. But then you go do a couple and you're like, my community really doesn't seem to be accepting of these. They're not like taking off like I thought. Again, you set a goal that was I'm going to do more community outreach and talks. Don't spend the entire year just doing that. Like allow yourself knowing that you're going to kind of do these quarterly check-ins. I mean, it can be quarterly, it can be monthly, where you're analyzing, is that overarching goal? Am I working towards the main effort of that goal? Or am I continuing to just kind of like bang out what I said I was going to do and it's not working? Like this is part of the problem with my spiritual, my like emotions on spiritual and like God and universe, and then control freaks, right? So like another issue, we'll say this. I told you I was only going to give you 5, but this is 3B. This is 3B. Okay. I am a recovering control freak. So setting goals ultimately triggers work that and awareness that I am doing around relinquishing control. That does not mean that goal setting is bad. Okay. I have to sit and understand that there is this space of setting goals that allow for our action, taking like what God has planted in us, what doors God is opening, and like place for us to actually take action. Because just sitting back and waiting for 2025 to happen, like, I don't think God wants that either. Okay. Like, I don't think that God's like, listen, bitch, sit down. You are not in control of anything. So therefore, don't even try doing anything. There's a difference between action and trying to hold on to control. And that's what I think has been triggered so much with past goal setting is like, it's like, I wrote it down in my damn passion planner. So therefore, it's the most important thing in the world. And it's like, yeah, but we didn't know what was coming. And so just allowing that constant reflection and ability to pivot is so, so important. The freedom to accept what your day to day experiences is showing you, right? It's kind of like what we said in the prayer. I know you didn't skip it because nobody would ever skip the prayer, but where it's like, okay, we're goal setting to the future, but we'd be an idiot to not look to the past of the actions we've been taking to try and achieve that goal and learn some lessons. And then in the moment, pivot to like kind of recalibrate that goal. Okay, problem number 4. I either overestimate or underestimate how long something will take. Now, this I have heard is absolutely an ADHD thing where like I can kind of set 1 year goals. If you asked me, what are my 3 year goals? I would either say something insane like, I think I can get to 10 million within 3 years. Or it would be like, I'm going to make an extra 100,000, where it's like, okay, well, I could make an extra 100,000 next in 1 year. I could do it in 6 months, honestly. Like, wait, what? Or, it'd be like, in 3 years, I am going to train for a marathon, where it's like, 3 years. Why are you setting 3 years to do that? You could do that in 6 months, right? Or I just set way too big of a goal because I'm like, I don't know, 3 years. If you look back on all the things that have happened in 3 years, like that's what honestly ends up happening is I don't set 3 year goals. And I hate it because I love the passion planner and every year I get it. And in the beginning pages are like these like different quadrants where you're supposed to fill out the 1 year goal and then like 3 years and like lifetime. I don't freaking know my lifetime goals. I am still learning myself. Like, uh, I don't know. So we just kind of we look at that. Now, what we could do instead for this problem number 4 is we can set timelines loosely and allow for buffer time. So when you set that goal, let's say that it is that you are going to increase your clinic's PVA by, patient visit average. So this is how long your patients stick around for. It's going to be a number. You're going to take it by total patient visits for your year and divide it by new patients. Okay. So you may get a number like 10 or 12, or you may get a number like 70 or 80 or 90. If you're an insurance clinic, you're probably going to be on the lower end. That's just facts. Okay. So, anyways, or if you do, yeah, there's lots of different things that go into that. So, if we want instead, so we are like, all right, what did I say? Increase by 30 or 20? We'll say 30 because I forgot what I said. All right, we're going to increase it by 30. Well, what we want to do is we want to set a loose timeline to really, set that milestone of like, okay, a year from now, we want to get to 30. That means that like 6 months in, we should be at 15, which means that 3 months in, we should be around $7 or $8. And then looking and going like, okay, do we have a plan to increase that in the next 3 months? So see what we did is we set that like bigger focus. But if you really struggle with this timeline aspect, just breaking it down like, oh, okay, I can see how to increase my OVA $7 in 3 months. That seems so much more reasonable to my brain. So it's not that. So like spend some time when you're doing your goal setting. If you're like, I don't freaking know, I can't set a goal for a year. Okay, what goals do you have for 3 months? And if that's a lot easier, then just multiply it by four. Like, unless you think there's going to be some momentum shit that happens, which is awesome if that's the case, but like just multiply it by four. That's fine. If you struggle with bigger, longer timelines, go short. What can you do in a month? Is a month too short? No problem. 3 months. What can you do in 3 months? How much weight can you lose? How much weight can you add at the gym? How much faster can you get? How much how many employees can you hire? How much expenses, whatever your goals are, how many trips can you go on? Right? If you can't figure out how many trips that you and your family are going to go on in the next year, well, cool. Look at January, February, March. They're pretty close. Like literally, you should be able to know, okay, we're going to go somewhere in January and then we're definitely going to go somewhere in March and then I have that conference in February. All right. So maybe set a plan that you're going to go to 4 conferences next year and 8 family vacations. I don't know. Start with that. And at the end of the quarter, reflect back and do that. Okay. It's okay. Just chunk it. Okay. Number 5. This is ugh, the motto to this one is shoot for the moon because even if you fail, you'll fall amongst the stars. And I know that that makes some people feel good, but all I picture is me falling and not landing my mark. I failed. I'm a loser and I am publicly humiliated because I set a goal and I didn't meet it. Some of us need more therapy than others. Okay. Yeah, I can hear it. I totally can. And if you're like, Lauren, are you insane? A little bit, a little bit. And you know what? I am here to show you that you are a lot more normal than you think. You're welcome. So, this one, the problem is I feel bad if I set a goal and I fall short. The like alternate to this, which is kind of similar to the I overestimate or underestimate. If I meet a goal too easily, I feel zero appreciation. None. Gosh, I love that the very first thing that I said that my problem was with numbers, but this entire episode, all I keep doing for examples is referencing things that are numerical. So let's say I want to be able to run 10 miles, and I plan that that's going to happen by September. Well, first of all, there's this thing called Parkinson's law. We should have talked about this in problem 4, but you know what? We're talking about it now. This is important. Pay attention. Parkinson's law is this idea that something will fill the amount of time you give it. So if I say I am going to run 10 miles by September, very, very unlikely am I going to randomly be attempting to run 10 miles in February. Hell to the no. But some of these goals that are a little more like, let's say you set a monetary goal, we're going to get to $60,000 months by June, and then boom, February happens. You put a game plan in place and it just happened. $60,000 months. 60 there's like this weird like, oh, okay. Well, it's a good problem to have, but there's no like celebration. Whereas if you would have set a goal for a year and you came in by the hair of your teeth on December 28th, you would be like, oh my God, good for me. I am so proud of me for the work that me did. Yet, like if you hit it in February, you're like, oh, it must not have been that good of a goal. I must not have had to work that hard if it just came. Again, that subconscious is a real asshole. Um, we should put an explicit warning on this episode. I do swear a lot when it's just me talking. I'm sorry about that. My dad is going to be disappointed. He likes it when I don't swear. So anyway, so how we overcome this, I feel bad if I set a goal and fall short. It's okay to fall short. I don't know. I'm sure there is some kind of law that says if you shoot for 5, the chances of you getting to 10 are not likely. If you shoot for 10, the chances of you getting more than 5 are very likely. Somebody smart, tell me what that law is, because I'm sure it exists. Because it seems like a really good like law of human behavior to incorporate here, where it's like that's the reality. is at our core, we are busy, lazy, bored, burnt out, overwhelmed, overstimulated, and we're putting in a lot of the minimum effort. Okay. Now, minimum effort can be a ton of effort. So don't take that bad. Okay. If you say, let's say that you want to make $1 million in 2025, your air quotes here, minimum effort is going to be a lot more than if you were like, I'm going to make $20 more. Okay. Ultimately, though, you could be working your butt off. We're going to put in the minimum effort. So it's almost like you need to fuck with your brain and go like, okay, I am going to actually shoot for this bigger, hairier goal that doesn't make me comfortable. This is kind of like problem 5B, is that a lot of us set goals that we think we can achieve because that's a lot more comfortable. Right. And so, what we really need to do is we need to set goals that make us uncomfortable, because when it sits within our comfort bubble, like our little cozy bubble of like, yeah, this effort seems like something I could do without having to stretch myself too thin. It's not that that's a bad. I'm proud of you for setting goals, but like I think we're supposed to set big, hairy, audacious goals. And I think we're supposed to do them from a really mission focused heart and mind. So like prayer on like, God, what do you want me to do? Like, so if you are, if you're looking for the to come over this, like, I feel bad if I set a goal and fall short, intentionally set a big hairy goal that you're like, girl, I very likely will fall short. But if I even remotely come close, it will be better than this year. Okay. All right. Problem 6. I don't have good organization or follow through. Do any of you think that I'm like actually really organized because of like you like see how often I put out reels or anything like that? Have I fooled any of you? No? All right. Well, that's good. That means I'm being honest. I am so disorganized. And I actually used to think for a long time that because I liked organization, that meant I was an organized person. No, just because I uh like drool over like pictures of pantries that are like everything's in like those clear containers and labeled. Do you know who's actually really, really good at this? I don't know if you know who Christina Ebel is. She's Tony Ebel's wife. She like will post like, and they've got a gazillion kids. And like every year she does this huge reorganization of their house. And I'm just like watching and drooling, but also simultaneously getting anxiety, being like, oh my God, that looks like so much work. And then you have to keep it that way. Anyways, we said we weren't going to get on tangents. I'm not an organized person. I'm really not. I have a dirty car. I have a really dirty car. I like a clean house. I like a tidy house. And I like things in piles, but really when it comes to organization, no, if we could just shove it in a junk drawer, that would be great. So when it comes to organization, I love the idea of pre-scheduling while you're feeling super motivated. So tack on to your goal setting a couple different, so like there's lots of different ways that you can do this. So if like you don't have anything other than you yourself and you can set something on either a virtual or physical calendar. Okay. Now, what I would say is pick a day, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, put it on the calendar and put like, I would recommend reserving time, like an entire day. Like if you need to block yourself off work, or if there's a day where you don't work Tuesday mornings or whatever, take all of Tuesday morning and you're going to go somewhere. Okay. So you're not allowed to do this at your house. I have reasons. We don't have time to get into it. We don't have time. I have all the time in the world. I'm trying to be short here. But when this day comes, ideally, you're going to check yourself into a hotel. You're going to do a staycation. You're going to go to a coffee shop. You're going to go to a different town and like whatever. You're going to have a meeting with yourself on that day where you are going to reevaluate your goals. And when you are like in the hustle and bustle, you're going to see that day coming up and you'll have already taken off work. You're going to leave work 3 hours early on one day, 4 times this year, to go evaluate your goals and make a plan. You're going to reflect back on the actions that you've taken towards these goals. How are you doing? How is it working? You're not going to hold on to shame. If you're like, oh my God, I forgot that was even a goal. Well, good. I'm glad that you're realizing this in March instead of December. Like you're working towards becoming a better leader for everybody that's around you. Okay. And so if that means that you have to sit with a moment of like, oopsies, I forgot I even set that goal. Okay. Was the goal not important then? Like, do you want to replace it with something that is more meaningful and actually would have an impact on your day to day life? Because if you completely forgot about that goal, that might have meant that you were overtaken with problem number three and you were really passionate and confident in that moment while you were goal setting. And the reality hit that, like, it's not going to move the needle that much. But, like, what a beautiful opportunity that you've presented for yourself to sit down and recalibrate. Okay. So we made it through my 6 rants about goals with a couple sub B sections. So now we're just going to cruise through 5 questions to get you into the right mindset for 2025 goal setting. Okay. We're going to cruise through these. So don't worry. So, question number 1. What areas in your life or business brought you the most fulfillment and joy in 2024? And how can you create more of that in 2025? So, this really helps you align goals with what truly matters. If you look back on this last year, and one of the things that brought you the most fulfillment was taking your child to Disney, when you look back and you're like, that was one of the best things that happened in this year. Fantastic. I would recommend that you set a goal that can make something like that happen again. What now it can be something like I'm going to save $1,000 every month so we can take our entire family to whatever. Okay. Fantastic goal. I love it for you. But looking at where did you experience joy? So, in let's say you lost weight this year or you hit a PR, okay? Like I ran a half marathon and I was really proud of the time that I put on. So, a goal for me, it would make sense that I add a half marathon with a sub 2:15 time, 2 hours and 15 minutes. I'm not breaking any speed barriers at that time, by the way, for those that don't know. Like that's not that fast. But anyways, um, now I do have a personal best that's 2 minutes and 45 seconds, but hey, I had a lot of joy with that goal this year, and so I'm looking at that. Now, ironically, this year while I was training for that half marathon, I gained 10 pounds. And it was not the good kind of 10 pounds. Everyone's like, "Oh, it must have been muscle." No, believe me, it was not. It was pasta and it was belly fat and it was cortisol. And cortisol for sure, for sure, for sure. But anyway, or like my body just holding on to every calorie because it's like I'm not meant to run 8 miles. So, but like when I reflect back on 2024, the joy came from that race. The joy of running that race overpowered the like ickiness of feeling a little uncomfortable in my clothes for a few months, and the annoyance of having to lose it post race. Like, and so that's a goal. Now, maybe I'll set a goal of only gaining 7 pounds the next time I run this race. I don't know. I don't know. Number 2 is what's one area where you'd like to experience consistent growth, and what's one area you'd like to experience more freedom? Okay. Let me say that again. What's an area where you'd like to experience consistent growth? This is long term, big picture growth. Becoming a better leader for your team, becoming, deepening your relationship with God. Like things that are on a lifelong journey, not just like, okay, I'm going to put it on my 2025 to do list so I can check it off. At the end of the year, this is a goal that you will not be able to say, cross off, and be like, done, did it. It will be something that is more that long term and an area that you can experience more freedom that's attached to that. Okay. So if it is deepening your relationship with God, I would recommend where will that give you more freedom? Will that give you more freedom in letting go the opinions of others? Will it give you more freedom with anxiety and mental health? But really attach those two and like thinking about like broadening your horizon beyond the I'm going to make more money, get skinnier, and everyone's going to be jealous of me. All right, number three, what new opportunities might 2025 bring, and how can you remain open to those without feeling limited? So flexibility is super essential, even in like planning stages. But what opportunities do you see that could be presenting themselves? Where have you been really, listening to more podcasts on or finding yourself following that Instagram coach on? Like, what things may happen for you? Maybe it is in broadening your real estate portfolio. What opportunities? But here's the deal. Okay, real estate, that's a great one. Let's say your goal, so that is a 2025 goal of Kirby's and mine. Um, well, mine, we haven't talked about it yet. Like I said, I spend our money. Uh, but it's kind of investing. It's totally investing. So 2025, I would like to add to our real estate portfolio. We have 2 commercial buildings and 1 short-term rental. I would really like to go in on a like, so if I had to, like, be very specific, it would be like, "We will invest in a multifamily complex," whether that's a duplex or quadplex or maybe even a 15-plex or whatever. But here's the deal. Let's be honest. We don't know what is going to happen in the real estate market. So I can put that down, but realize that an opportunity for interest rates going down is greatly going to bring that in. So, like thinking through, like, well, what opportunities might 2025 bring in? I might get asked to speak on stage, which would allow for like, I could bring my family with me to that trip, have my child record me on stage, and add on a day on each side. And boom, we had a family trip that is being paid for. Like just thinking about vague opportunities can really help keep you flexible and dream. Number four, how can I measure my success in a ways that feels meaningful rather than just focusing on numbers? I'm not going to dig too much into this one because this is kind of that overarching thread throughout this entire podcast. Um, really just be aware. The worst thing you could do is set your goals, and your goals are 6 different numbers that you want to hit, and you haven't put meaning into what they're going to do for your happiness and your joy, your freedom, or your level of growth, your deepening of your relationships, or becoming a better person. It's not that numbers are bad. It's when we allow those metrics to define us that can really, if we're not meeting them, then what we do is we just get rid of them instead of recalibrating. So we can just avoid those feelings of shame. And so really just having intention around that. And then number five, the last one, how will I celebrate small wins and progress, even if I'm not perfectly on track with my goals? So this would mean, when you are setting that date on the calendar where you're going to sit and recalibrate, you literally get to celebrate something just for having that meeting. That can be the celebrating. That's the small win. If you are not doing that, that's a small win of going like, okay, hey, I actually sat down and reevaluated, and we weren't on pace, and that's okay. But here's how I'm going to celebrate the fact that we sat down and made a new game plan. Because just by sitting down and reflecting on it and making a new pivot, a new action plan for the remaining of the year, you just increase your likelihood of reaching them so much more. So how are you going to celebrate? I would set multi different levels here. It's really going to depend on what motivates and drives you. You know, if it is maybe, meeting that annual goal is something bigger, like a weekend getaway with you and your husband. Maybe the mini goal of literally just having that quarterly check-in. Um, or another little mini goal is actually having like setting monthly. So we talked about like, all right, you have the goal for the end of the year, looking at, all right, that means at 6 months you should be where, and at 3 months you should be where. We'll break that down and take your entire calendar and write out like, okay, while you're motivated, take that annual goal and break it down January through December, but do it in pencil. Do it in pencil. So when you're at that quarterly thing, you can look back at your calendar and be like, okay, so January, the goal was this, actual was this. Whoops, didn't meet it. February, the goal was this, the actual was this. Whoop, didn't meet it. You know, all right. So now when I'm looking at April, May, and June, all right, I'm going to erase those and I'm going to recalibrate those goals based on something different. That's okay. But please give yourself a win for that. Like, what is the small win that you are going to do? It may be, let's see, what would be a small win? I don't know. I'm super bad at celebrating wins. It could be a nice bottle of wine with your husband. It could be a date night at a restaurant. It could be going to a concert, going to a like, it can be something, but I know it sounds so stupid, but like romanticize your life. Like, that's kind of what I'll end on is like one of the things that I think more of us need is social media isn't going away. And other people do such a great job of romanticizing their own lives for us. And I just think we deserve that as well. So set yourself up with so many different opportunities to celebrate in 2025 and big, small, medium, write them down and like make it like clockwork. You are an employee for yourself. If you told your employees that when you hit 40 new patients, you were going to give them pedicures, you do it, you wouldn't be like, oh yeah, that's right. I mean, we did it, but it wasn't really that big of a deal. I don't know that it's deserving of pedicures. And like the fact that you would treat yourself that way, like we all do it. I do it. And so that's going to be one of our goals is to like start treating ourselves with the same amount of respect that we treat others in our lives. And it's just going to make us be a better leader. So I hope that this was super helpful in helping you rethink about goal setting, helping you feel inspired with the best things that you can do after this episode. One, share to Instagram or Facebook. If this was a helpful episode, I would love if you would share it with others. I definitely in 2025 want to continue to reach more chiropractors and help them avoid burning out because our profession, we need more really, really successful chiropractors. Two, I want you to look at the remaining of the year, ideally not January, unless it absolutely has to be, but look sometime in December and set a date with yourself. Okay. So maybe do, you know, your spouse meeting. No, do this before that. You're going to need to do this before your team meeting and your spouse meeting. Get yourself right first so you can show up to those really being clear about what version of you is showing up in 2025 and what you are going to aim to hit. All right. Good luck.